How would you feel about a ban of "How are you today?" questions on the sub? I'd prefer a ban of "How would you feel about?" questions which are thinly veiled leading questions. How would you feel about a ban of "How would you feel?" questions on this sub? If we banned all the stupid reposts, there'd be nothing left. Edit. This unhelpful shitpost is now one of my top 10 Reddit comments. Sure, but let's also ban the "How would you feel about?" insert something most people agree with questions, such as yours. Is this a trick question? Asking us how we feel about eliminating a question that is essentially, "How do you feel?" Somebody is about to get the joke about "How do you feel?" posts. In case nobody else mentions it, this sub-banned "How do you feel?" posts. It's very ironic that this question uses a banned form and is asking about banning a type of question. If you're encountering a weird downvote pattern to replies, this is why. But to answer your question, the sub's purpose is to ask thought-provoking questions. I rarely see those here anyway, but it's nice when they do. I'm not sure banning the inane is the way to go. The problem is people upvoting the drivel all the time, and there's probably just no practical solution to that. I would feel very *seeking good about that. There is a glut of such inane questions on this sub, and any sort of curb on such pointless questions would be a good thing in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. From the sub sidebar. Greater than R, AskReddit is the place to ask and answer thought-provoking questions. I don't think "How are you today?" classifies as a thought-provoking question. The only thought that it provokes is of me wanting to bash my head on my keyboard repeatedly, lol. I'd prefer a ban on "Your username is" questions. I'd like it. Emo people ask it because they're hoping it gets karma. No different because nobody cares. Obviously. How about a ban on the 5 most asked questions on Reddit? Or a ban on "How would you feel?" questions? Fuck it. Let's just ban our AskReddit. I'd rather ban the "What's your favorite video game?" but phrased in a different way. Every time I scroll my feed, I see at least 1 to 2 threads about "Explain your username," or "If your username was this or that, what would happen? What would you do?" Every single time, I'll give the answer I'll always give to these posts. I'd rather have a ban on "How would you feel about banning X questions?" I would be against a ban, because Reddit should be self-regulating. If it's not interesting enough, people shouldn't comment or upvote. Maybe that's wishful thinking. Either way, if I see a bad post, I usually just scroll on by. I broke my own rule for this post, and lots of others probably do the same. So disregard this comment, or don't. It's just karma farming. They don't actually care. What I want to ban is questions that are targeted at a very narrow group of people, like lawyers or doctors or people who married Karens. All the comments are just like, "I'm not an ex, but I once heard a story." There's a subreddit that exists for that kind of thing now. How was today? Actually, pretty chill place. You just make a write-up about your day, and people can comment on it. Good bit of positivity floating around there these days. What with the pandemic and all, I wouldn't even notice. How are you? I think people who feel lonely or sad could sort of feel cared for by a stranger asking them how they feel, and they can vent if they have something on their mind. Could help them feel with your fingers. But if we did that, all we'd have are questions that are people trying to get off by asking about their fetish. How about, "How do you feel yesterday?" I've never seen one. I don't see a need to ban these. I mean, who else am I going to anonymously spill all of my anxiety and life failings to? My parents? Fuck that. I don't know. On another note, how are you today? I want a ban on this in life. I have embarrassed myself into my mid-30s by honestly answering this and letting strangers know about my gastrointestinal discomfort. But online questions like this are clearly not greetings and reaffirms it's a literal question. No more asking people how they are doing, both literally and as a greeting. Grunt not to acknowledge people's existence and then move on. Need it. I want a ban on "How would you feel?" posts. Why would we? A part of Reddit would be asking provoking and childish questions, plus would it really make a difference? What would you do if there were no rhetorical questions? How would you feel about a ban on it? How would you feel about a ban of questions on this sub? How would you feel if we banned the How would you feel if questions? Yes, please. I mean, I see nothing wrong with checking in on your fellow Redditor. At least someone cares enough to ask. How about instead of banning them all, have one master post for everyone to post to? Would be better to ban. I once was the youngest person on earth. What about the things that happened to us in the past that we stay up at night thinking about? I'm just going to put you down for a not great response. On one hand, I appreciate being asked that, but on the other hand, let's face it, all our answers will be, I feel like shit. How about you? How would you feel about a ban of How would you feel about a ban of How are you today? Questions on the sub. Questions on the sub. I think it's a problem that will largely solve itself after the pandemic is over. Though to prevent a flood of 10 or 20 or 50 people trying it in the same day, maybe it should be a weekly, or every couple day, mega thread instead. Given current global conditions, it's a heartwarming show of support for one another. Your mom's pussy smells like you. We should probably ban language in general. I don't really mind about them tbh. Against it? If they keep showing up at the top, it's because they're popular enough to get there. If it annoys people, then they're either a minority or choosing not to downvote, both of which ought to lose them the authority to ban any topic. I'm okay with it, but why do you feel this way? How are you feeling? Seems like a cry for help. How are you today? Then I will have a bad day. How are you today is pretty silly emo, but I guess it helps some people vent and feel connected. How would you feel about? Just encourages complaints that go nowhere. So it's negativity for its own sake. If I have to choose between one and the other, I'd choose the cheap-ass version of posts that are rooted in positivity rather than this. Quite upset tbh. This seems like a cry for attention. Are you feeling okay? There is no reason to ban anything on Reddit except for illegal content. Let upvotes and downvotes curate what we see, not arbitrary rules set up by moderators who don't deserve any power. This kind of post is just as bad as the How are you today posts. Just ban all the questions? You guys bitch about anything. It's Ask Reddit. Let the people ask what they want. If you don't want to answer, don't. I would also ban blatant sex questions like, how does it feel to have an orgasm? Fine. How about you? I like them if the op actually responds. I say leave them. What is wrong with people checking up on other Redditors because of lockdown and NSFW questions? They're just easy karma made by and for 12-year-olds. Why ban? The entire point of Reddit is to be upvote based. Let the masses shape everything. They should be like assholes. Everybody has one. I want to tell someone how am I today. I rather not have as many sex-related questions. Sometimes I scroll through my feed and then there are like 6 to 7 sex-related posts which have all been asked 1,000 times before. I'm fine, thank you. I don't feel like they should be banned completely. However, there should be one every once in a while, maybe every 2 months or more. Can we clear out the endless what would you fantasy questions first? I haven't seen any since I joined Reddit, so I wouldn't notice it. So I think it is a question of when. If I don't want to view the question answers, I don't have to. But some people need them to vent or talk. Those are the only people who ask me that question and expect a response. I'd rather ban questions that ask about banning stuff on the sub. It always feels like a backhanded insult at the mod team. Like you're trying to say they're doing a bad job. The how are you questions are fine. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. I once said, how was your day? Got down votes. Saw someone else post the exact same question a few hours later. That dude got tons of upvotes. And a shit ton of rewards. My point isn't to be greedy. It is just that, how are you today? Questions are sort of a hit or miss. ban them. But we should still allow "how are you?" Really, I personally don't mind these questions. It gets me to focus on how I actually do feel. I'm so used to saying, "I'm good. How are you?" Quote, because of previously working fast food, that I forget to actually think about it most of the time. I would be against it. I've done it before, not to get karma, but because I genuinely want people to feel better. Besides, no matter if it's for karma or not, someone is being cheered up, hopefully. How are you today? How are you today? I would wonder how everyone was doing. Sad face. Your question sucks. Everybody is thinking it and I am saying it. I like being asked how I am. Doesn't happen enough. Good way to vent sometimes. How are you today? One word shall get me either Reddit gold or banned. Seaman. I would strongly prefer a ban of what if less than hypothetical scenario that is unlikely or even entirely out of the realm of reality. Greater than happened. Less than some stupid question. Greater than posts. That depends on whether op responds or participates. I've seen some people share things where they were really going through a lot, and other people were supportive. That may have been the only support they got that day. That depends. How are you today? I'm not a fan of banning questions in general, but this one in particular I really think should stay. More importantly, how are you doing today? Fine. How are you? Sometimes it's nice to have someone ask that question, even if it is really just for upvotes. How about ban the mods? IDC. Let's storm Area 51. Oh wait, y'all did. Shit. What's left? Fort Knox. I would rather ban questions that are actually writing prompts. No one mentioned the C word. This whole thing is fucked. The situation, as serious or as unserious as it may be, the fact that we're all divided and unsure is a major problem. Fuck off. How are you today? Seems like a good opportunity to create a subreddit just based around this question. I like them. I've seen people get some really heavy stuff off their chest. If it's helping people, why not leave it the way it is? If you don't like it, or don't need such a post on a certain day, skip over it. I wish I would get asked this question. There are "how are you today" questions on this sub. I feel like it'd be pointless. Some people actually like answering them too. I don't think banning any question is in the spirit of this sub. I believe it'd be censorious. Let the people have their say. Let dumb questions rise to the top if they must. Let smart question rise to the top if they must. Why? How do you feel today? Winking face. Can we just ban that question in general? I hate lying to people and nobody actually asks because they want you to tell them how you are doing. It's a bullshit question and most of the time just reminds me of how horrible I actually am doing. When I wasn't thinking about it before being asked, I would feel good, thanks. How about you? Mildly indifferent. I don't have a problem with them. I just think they should be on a different sub. The same way I feel about your question. It's repetitive and should be deleted. Looks like somebody's in a bad mood today. And why should they be banned? All I see is questions that are genuinely checking in on people. Possibly helping them in some way. It's a small thing, but it can really lift a person's spirit. Are you okay? I am rather confused by this question, as I haven't seen any of the questions this question is asking. How'd we feel if they were banned? I mean, if you don't like it, you don't have to answer it. As a kind of new Reddit user, I still have a hard time to understand the censure around here. I can understand spam, but there's always something wrong with regular questions. This is kind of annoying. Don't. People enjoy that, and it's harmless. Some people don't have any other way of connecting to others than to ask banal and redundant questions. This should be a place for them, too. Come on, Reddit. I just don't read them, but I appreciate them because they let some people vent and get support from others that they may not be getting otherwise. Just ignore the posts. I actually kinda like those questions. Especially right now with everyone on lockdown, it's nice to see how others are doing and scream into the void of credit if need be. Asking people how they are doing is an important part of connection right now. Nah, not now. It's an important question during a pandemic. It's nice for people to be able to answer it here, jokingly or not, in case they are not being asked elsewhere. They can't be true in their answer in different contexts. I think adding more constraints makes it a worse sub rather than a better one. Reddit ain't YouTube. Don't limit free speech. That's the only thing that makes Reddit good. I like them given how disheartening it is to simply be alive lately. It's positive. IDK, it's a sweet gesture, I think. Just let people enjoy things. If people want to make simple posts and you don't want to read them because they irritate you or you've seen them before, don't open the thread. I certainly wouldn't mind. It seems wholesome at first, but as I see them day after day, I'm realizing they're just bait for karma. Yes, these are just people trying to game the system. They only want to get enough karma to post on our dank memes or somewhere like that. They're like seagulls. They fly in, shit all over the place, and then fly off again.